Hello guys, welcome to the TDI official YouTube channel, and today we are going to be doing a little analysis, right? We are going to be answering a little question to explore Excel. But before we go into the video, I want you to subscribe, like this video, and also share with your friends. Okay? So today we are going to be answering these questions from TDI project, from TDI Week 1 Excel project, right? So it says, as a data analyst, you have been presented with a retail data set of 100 rows. So you are to ensure your analysis is accurate. To ensure that your analysis is accurate, number one, you should check for inconsistency and error in your data set. This is where we're going to be talking about data cleaning. And we are going to also ensure that your data type is properly formatted. We're also going to be talking about a bit about data types, and you will ensure that null values are dealt with properly, right? So we're going to be talking about how to deal with null values. Then we're also going to do some calculations like total sale, and then look for average order, right? And we're also going to do a little bit of conditional formatting, and we're also going to learn how to use filtering and sorting and a whole lot of things, and also how to build common charts, right? So that is all we're going to do in today's section. So let's go into our Excel. Okay, so this is what our Microsoft Excel interface, our workbook. This is what our workbook looks like, right? And I have my data set right here, the retail sales data set. Okay, so right here in my Microsoft Excel, I have tabs. So these are called tabs. Your file, your home, your insert, your draw, page layout, formulas, data, and so on are called tabs. Then under your tabs, you have your ribbon. So if I say go to home tab, under home tab, go to the ribbon, right? I'm talking about these things right here. So in our home ribbon, we have our paste. You can see we also have where we can format our text, and we also have where we can also format our numbers. We also have conditional formatting right here. We also have insert, delete table, and so on. We also have our sorting, our filtering, and also our search and find, right, and so on, right? So this is called a tab, and this is called a ribbon. Just in case you've been hearing tabs and ribbon and you haven't relaxed to check what these terms means, now you know what it means, right? So we have, let's go down to our sheet. So these are called rows, and these are called rows, and these are called columns, right? So if I say column A, I'm talking about this way. If I say column B, I'm talking about this way. So if I say row 1, means I'm talking about here. If I say row 2, means I'm talking about this row, right? So if I say A2, if I say cell A2, means I'm talking about, that means row column A and cell 2. This is what I'm talking about. So if I say cell A5, this is the cell I'm talking about. If I say cell D3, this is what I'm talking about, because I am in column D and this is cell 3, right? So if I say cell D3, this is what I'm talking about, right? So if I want to get the range of the cells I have in my the data I have in my data set, if I want to get the range of it, I know that I'm going to do. So my cells started from here, my data set started from here, which is A1, and ended here, which is I1. So to get the whole of this data set, I am going to be calling out from A1 to I100. That is how I can get this data set, right? So let me show you a bit of what I'm talking about. So if I want to get my entire data set, and I do equals to, let's say, A2 range I100. You can see that my entire data set is highlighted, right? This is how you call out your data set. So you can either call it by the row number, or you can call it by the cell number. Okay. So that's for that, right? And also something else we're going to be talking about today is functions and formulas. We are also going to be discussing how to differentiate between functions and formulas, because I know a whole lot of misconception have been going on around what is what is a formula and what is a function. Okay, so today we are going to be clearing that up. So let's use our first questions. We're going to use our questions to explain most of these terms that we have in our Excel. Okay, so our first question says, how do we ensure inconsistency and error? How do we check for inconsistency and error in the data set, right? And question number two spoke about data type. Then question number three spoke about null values. How do we ensure that null values are being handled properly, right? So let's go to our data. So to check for inconsistency, one thing we can do is, first of all, what's our inconsistency, or how do you check for inconsistency, right? This is under data cleaning. This is what part of what you call data cleaning. So part of the things where you do in data cleaning are, you check for inconsistency, you check for missing values, you check for duplicates, you also check for incorrect spellings, right? These are the things that you do when you're trying to do data cleaning. And data cleaning is a very important step for you to do as a data analyst, because if you're working with a very dirty data, you are going to get wrong results. And you know what wrong results is going to lead to? Bad business decision, and it's going to affect sales, it's going to affect a whole lot of things, and you don't want to do that. So as a data analyst, when you get your data step set, you move to the second stage of your the third stage of your data analysis process, which said that you should process. This is where you are going to do your data analysis. This is where you are going to do your data analysis cleaning. You're going to clean this data set to ensure that there are no dirty in your data. Make sure that the data is clean enough for you to carry out your analysis and get a good result, right? So part of which is what we call inconsistency. And what do I mean by inconsistency? Inconsistency, as the name implies, means that something that is not consistent, right? So um if I have like an age column where maybe I'm working with a company data, and then they've told me in the company that the highest person there is 60 years old, and I'm checking my data and I see age that is 61, 62. That is an inconsistent data, right? It's not following the pattern that it's supposed to follow. So it is not supposed to be so, right? Another thing, let's say I have a column that is talking about, that is supposed to hold only two values, right? Let's say it's supposed to hold only two initials, like the first name and the last name, maybe DA, BA, EA, and I'm seeing a three-letter words inside that particular column. That is an inconsistency. It's not following the normal pattern, right? So how do you check for such? So first thing, right, we want to put in our filter. So we're going to highlight the first row of our data set, right? Then under our home tab, we'll go to our filter ribbon, right? Sort and filter, and we're going to insert filter to each of the columns we have. Now we have filter. So first things first, as a data analyst, when you open your data set, before you even start cleaning, when you are done defining your data problems and writing questions of how you want to use and solve your data, how you want to use and solve your business problem, sorry, you put in your filter and try to use your filter to check what you have in your data set, right? Your filter is supposed to help you filter everything you have in your data set, so you get to see it at a go. So you know exactly what you need, the columns you need, the rows you need, and the ones you don't, right? So under our transaction, to open our transaction, these are the data that we have in our transaction ID, and we don't have any null values, we don't have any inconsistent formatting here, inconsistent format, sorry. We don't have duplicates here. So I don't know if we have duplicates. You can't really see if you have duplicates because it shows you one of every number, right? So we're also going to check for duplicates later. So under our dates column, you can see the dates that we have. Then under our customer ID, we can see the one we have for customer ID. Then in our gender, we can see gender. Then age, we can see age. So remember when I spoke about the company telling you that the highest employee there is 60 years old. Now imagine saying a 61, a 62, a 63. You know that there is a problem there, right? So product category is another place where you can have inconsistency, right? So imagine I tell you in the company that the only thing they sell are beauty products, electronics, and clothing, and then you open your category and you're seeing food. That is a problem. Okay, so it needs cleaning. So we have quantity, right? And then we have unit price and we have total amount, right? So this is good. Now we know exactly what our data set contains, and we know that we don't have no values, right? So we know that we don't have no values because we could not see any blank spaces when we did our filtering, right? So to check for duplicates, let's say we want to ensure that we don't have duplicates in this our data set. So to check for duplicates, we can highlight our entire cell right up here and go to our data tab. Under our data tab, we have sorry, under our data tab, we have here remove duplicates, right? So we want to remove duplicates because duplicates, we are assuming that that particular data set is there already, right? So we don't want to have two of a particular data set so we don't get wrong results, right? So if we click on these duplicates, firstly, we are going to tell it our table has headers so it doesn't mistake our headers and our values that we have. And we want to check for duplicates in all columns, right? So we are going to say okay. Now it says no duplicates found. So we are good to go. That means we don't have duplicates in our data set, right? So to ensure that our data set is formatted properly, right? So in Excel, let me make this big enough. So in Excel, numbers are formatted to the right. This is when I say right, I mean this way, right? So you can call it left. I think should be left actually, not right. So numbers are formatted to the left. You call this left. Numbers are formatted to the left, meaning that if I type in a number, it's supposed to be at the left side of the cell. And if I type in a text, it's supposed to be at the right side of the screen. So when you have a number value and it's at the right side of the screen of your cell, that means it's being formatted as a text. You don't need someone to tell you, oh, see this thing is a text, right? Anytime you see a number that is formatted that is to the right, means that it is formatted as a text, right? So one thing we can do to ensure that all cells are being formatted properly, right? You can use our format number option to do that, right? So we can highlight everything we have here, right? And we'll go to under our home tab, we have our formatting, right? Numbers. Click on it and we can choose what we want to format it as, right? So we want to format it as number, we want to format it as currency, accounting, date, time, percentage, fiction, scientific, text, and so on, right? So we are already sure that it's formatted as number, so but we can do that again. Now it's going to ask us how many decimal places do we want to add. We don't want any decimal place, right? So let it be the way it is. Now we have this, right? But another way we can do this without going to our home tab, we can right click and we are going to see this option here, format cells. So format cells take you to where we were before and you get to do the same thing, right? So that's how to do that. So you can do that for all your cells and ensure that they are being formatted properly. So how to deal with null values, right? So one way we can check for null value is by using our filter, right? So if you open your filter, once you click on your filter, you will see blank. That means you have blank spaces. So null values are blank spaces, right? So you're going to see blank there and you deal with that. But if you don't want to use that, we can also use a function known as is blank. Is a function in Excel known as is blank. So the only thing we need to do here is say equals to. Before you write a formula or a function, before you perform a calculation in Excel, you need to put your equal sign so that Excel knows that you're about to perform a calculation. Okay. So if I say is blank, I have my is blank. I just need to press my tab and then I have this. So it says value. What do I want to check if it's blank? So I want to check the whole of my column, right? So let's say I want to check the whole of this column. So I'm going to highlight to the last, right? And I'm going to close my bracket and okay. Now false, telling me that none of these values is blank. That is what your is blank function does. So if I have any blank cell, it's going to tell me true. Okay. So let me just control Z that. I don't want that. Just wanted to show you how you can also check for blank cells. Okay. So I said I was going to explain what functions and formulas are. So formulas are like combination, number combination, cell referencing, mathematical operation. They're like calculations that you perform in Excel. Why that's formulas. Why functions are like inbuilt formulas already in Excel, right? So let me use an example to explain that. If I say one one plus one, sorry, one plus one, I have two. This is the formula I just performed because I put in the formula myself, right? But if I do this equals to sum one comma one. Now I've used a function. This is I did not put the plus sign here. I just used the form function in Excel. So it's an inbuilt function that is in Excel, right? But I can still use a formula to get the same thing. But that's the difference between a function and a formula. So if I'm talking about using a function, I am telling you go and give me an inbuilt formula that is already in Excel. If talking about a formula, I'm talking about a formula you have to write yourself. Okay, that's the difference between a function and a formula. So we can remove this and delete this also. So let's see what our next question is talking about. So okay, it says how do you ensure that null values are formatted properly, right? So I've seen many questions people asking, how do I have I have empty cells, how do I fill them up? So first thing first, if you are working in a company and you are given a data set that you cannot find, you have incomplete data sets, right? You have blank spaces. You can go back to whoever gave you the data and say, oh, okay, I want to see where this data is coming from. I have plenty blank spaces. I need to be sure, right? Because the process of transferring data from one system to another can lead to um, the disorganization of this data. What do I mean? It can lead to missing values, duplicates, um, inconsistent formatting and all those things can lead to it, right? So you can ask for the original data set, go back to whoever gave you the data and tell the person your challenges, right? But if you're working in a company where you don't have access to these things, maybe the customer, like a customer detail, and the customer has already gone, you can't start calling the customer back to get these values back, or you are just practicing as a data analyst, you get a data set, you're just practicing and you don't know how to handle these values. So first thing first, if I'm working in a particular column, let's say this column, column I, and I have blank spaces, right? What I will do is I'll look for percentage of field values. What do I mean by field value? Like percentage of values that I have in this particular column compared to percentage of missing values. If the field values are more than the missing values, right, I am going to, if the field values are more than the missing values, I am going to um look for the percentage of this column, sorry, look for the average of this column, use the average to fill up this thing. How do you look for percentage of field values, right? You're going to say equals to count A, right? Your count A is going to give you percentage of field values, going to give you the number of field values you have here. You can times by your 100 to get the percentage, right? That's what your count A function does. If I want to count percentage of missing values, I'm going to use my count blank. It's going to give me the count of blank cells in this column, right? I can now use times by 100 to get, I can times by 100 to get my blank cells, percentage of blank cells. Then I will compare to see if my field values are more than the blank cells. I'm going to look for the average of that column, use the average to fill up this space. Okay. Then if I'm working in a text, let's say you're working with a data where you can easily browse online and check what that particular data set is trying to talk about, you can do that. What do I mean by that? Like if you're working with, let's say example, a country data set, and you get initials of, let's say, NG, AC, but the name of the country is not there, is blank. You know that NG is talking about Nigeria. You can fill that up. You know that CA is talking about Canada. You can fill that up, right? That's what I'm talking about. Okay. But if you have seen one other thing that will decide whether you are going to be doing all this, looking for the average, checking online to see what this abbreviation means, is whether that particular column matters to your business question. So mind you, you would have written down your business question and how you want to go about answering it. So if my business question, I don't have any business with total amount, there is no need stressing myself about that. I can easily delete the column from my data set, right? So I know that I'm not using that data, that's calling for anything. So I'm not stress myself over it. Okay, that is one strategy you should know as a data analyst. So always make sure you write down your business questions and how you want to go about answering it before you start your data cleaning. So you don't end up spending 2 weeks trying to clean a data set or trying to clean a particular column that you're not going to use. It's going to be waste of time. Okay, so let's move. So our next question says you should calculate the total sale and then the average order value, right? So to get total sale, I am just going to use my sum. I'm going to use my sum function and I'm going to highlight from this down to the end, right? So I can use my shortcut button, which is my control shift down, to get my entire sales, right? So I don't have to be moving. Then close my bracket and enter. Now this is the sum. So let's call this sum of total amount. So I have this right here, sum of total amount. So I've answered that question. You can see how easy it is to do, right? So our next question spoke about average order, right? So our next question spoke about the average order. There is also an inbuilt function called average, right? So these are functions that you should look out for, that you should go and study, watch videos, watch other resources. The main aim of this video is to answer those questions that we have up there, not to teach you functions and formulas or aggregate functions and the rest, right? Just answer those questions, teach you how to answer those questions that we have up there. So we have other resources that are going to help you learn about functions and formulas. We have other resources that are going to help you about data cleaning, full videos of data cleaning. We have other resources that are going to help teach you the full interface of Excel, full video on data analytics, what is all about, and so on, right? So the main essence of this video is to answer those questions that we have up there, right? So to get the average, right, let's say we want to get the average of the quantity that was gotten, right? So we're going to have this, and then control shift down, and I have my whole cell highlighted, close my bracket and enter. Now I have the average of this cell. Okay, so that's just how to do it. So average of quantity, right? So let's see the next question. So it says use conditional formatting to highlight the total sales greater than the average values. So we want to highlight, where's my data set? We want to highlight every value that is greater than the average here. That's the top 10 values that are greater than the average we have right here, right? So let's say the average is equals to, let's look for the average, although we don't need that when we get to our conditional formatting, but let's see what the average is. So we have this. So the average is 48481, right? Let's go back to our question. Our question says total sales column greater than the average value. Use the coordinate to highlight sales in the total sales that are okay here. So let's go back. So now how we are going to do this is that we are going to highlight this column. Then under our home tab, we have conditional formatting right here, right? This is a topic on its own that you need to go and watch and learn about, right? So we have different rules. We have highlighting rules, top to bottom rules, data bars, color scales, icon scales, right? So what we are looking for is for it to highlight cells that are greater than the average value, right? That's what we said. So greater than. So what should it be? Sorry, let's do that again. So we want to use the top bottom rows. So we want to highlight cells that are above the average, right? So this time around, we don't need to calculate it. You know, we already calculated the average before we came to this data set. We already to this conditional formatting ribbon. We already calculated the average. But let's say we want Excel to calculate the average for us and then highlight the value. We just come to our top bottom rows. Then we have above average. Now it has highlighted those cells that are above average, right? If you see here, what we got as our average is 481. This is highlighted because it's greater. 500 is highlighted. 100 is not. 30 is not. 50 is not, and so on, right? This is how we can highlight those values, right? So let's see what our next question says. So determine the top sales, the top 10 sales. So we can also use our conditional formatting for this, right? We can use our conditional formatting for what we have here. So let's um let's okay, let's use our price unit to demonstrate that. So let's say we want to highlight top top price, top 10 price, right? So we can highlight this, go to our conditional formatting, and we can highlight top 10 items, right? Now we have our top 10 items selected, right? Another thing we can do is that we can sort these values out. Now that we've highlighted this, we can sort it out so that we can have the colored ones are on the top and have the other ones at the down part. So we know exactly what are the top 10 values, right? So we're going to our under our home tab, we're going to searching and filtering. So under it we have sort values, right? So sort from largest to smallest. No, sorry, Control Z. That is not what I want. Oh, okay. I didn't highlight the particular one. I want sort right. So I want to sort by unit price by unit. Then I don't want to sort by cell values. I want to set by the color of the cell because I have a colored cell, right? So I'm going to choose the color that I want. Let's say it's just assuming that I have multiple colors there. So I want to put them on the top. You can put them on the top or you can put them at the bottom, right? If I say okay, now I have my top 10 values at the top, right? This one I have multiple values because I didn't tell it top 10, but this one I have just 10 because I told it top 10 values, right? Well, I think I did top 20 for that one. I did top 20. That's why I have this. I've selected top 10 values when I did my conditional formatting. So do Control Z, right? So that's for that. Let's see what our last question is talking about. It said plot a chart showing sales by product category. So all I need to do here is highlight. I know we are not used, some of us are not used to pivot table by now, or you've not heard of pivot charts, right? So there's something called pivot table and pivot charts, and that one is a topic on its own, right? But to be able to get this, I'm going to highlight this, control, and they say price and product category, right? I'm going to highlight the both of them, go to my insert, and I'm going to insert chart. Just click on recommended chart and we have this beautiful chart here. So we're going to say okay. Now we have our chart right here in another sheet, right? So we can just cut this, take it to our sales here, and we can paste here. Now we have our chart. This is our chart. Sum of sum of sales, price, price by unit, and product category. We can take this off by right clicking, and we can hide all field value button. So we have this, right? Looking nice. So project pivot table, this is our pivot table, and pivot chart are topics for another day. So keep up with us, watch our other videos, and we have videos where we are going to talk about pivot table, pivot charts, and functions and formulas, data cleaning, conditional formatting, and so on, right? This is just a brief video to summarize everything, all the questions we have there. All right. So I hope this video was hopeful. Sorry. I hope this video was helpful for you, right? And I hope we answered lots of your questions. See you next time. And don't forget to subscribe and like. Okay. See you next time. Bye.